Hey guys, and welcome back. I'm Seiben here with the Aether Hub, bringing you our first look at Magic's latest duel decks, Mind vs. Might. Mind vs. Might pits the more intellectually inclined Jorah of the Get-To against the more physically impressive Lovisa Cold Eyes, both creatures with storied pasts from the plane of Dominaria. In this video, I'll be taking a look at some of the more prominent cards featured in each deck, along with those getting a new coat of paint. The entirety of the deck lists can be found in the video's description below. Let's start with the Mind deck. From the Wizards of the Coast product page, they say the Mind deck is an instant and sorcery matters deck, with ridiculous levels of synergy woven throughout its constructions. With no artifacts present, Jorah's skills as an artificer take a back seat in this brew. Instead, the deck focuses on controlling the tempo of the game and auto-generating an army of nuisances until it can execute one massive game-shifting turn that either leaves the opponent completely destroyed or in enough of a mess that it only takes one or two more turns to clean up the rest. As they say, the face card's ability to give non-land cards suspend makes the Mind deck more like a game of chess than a typical game of Magic the Gathering. You're meant to set up plays turns well in advance from when you'd actually want to make them, cornering your opponent and surrounding them in a trap they know is coming but have no power to stop. Of course, doing this with sorceries is always a fun little trick to set up plays, but it's also great for cheating out some of the huge creatures found in the Mind deck, like Deep Sea Kraken and the Unspeakable. Both of these high-cost creatures are potential game enders for sure, but the price makes them unrealistic to cast naturally in a normal game. Of course, Deep Sea Kraken has suspend itself, but at 9 turns or spells cast by the opponent, it's pretty slow going. It's clear Jorah's key ability, to suspend big things, is meant to be abused in Mind. I mean, just imagine getting a cheap Beacon of Tomorrows off. Man, that's really sweet. Next, we have Wizards of the Coast's description of the Might deck. The Might deck aims to deliver a constantly escalating beatdown, as the +2/+2 lure to barbarians and warriors, Lovisa Cold Eyes can be a devastating drop when played as part of a steady curve. And it doesn't stop there, the deck also packs some mana acceleration with Rampant Growth and Burning Tree Emissary to make your front lines that much more intimidating early in the game. To exemplify the tribal nature that Lovisa brings to the formula, Coat of Arms can join the party and support your barbarians and warriors even further. So this is a much more traditionally styled Magic the Gathering deck, sort of aggro-y, but only in terms of its mana ramp to get more expensive things out quickly. The obvious contrast between Might and Mind here is that Mind tries to win the long game by setting things up, while Might tries to bash your face in as fast as possible to render those plans worthless. This is a great comparison to a lot of MTG players out there, the cold, calculating control players versus the aggro-y face beaters. I for one am more of a face basher, but that's just me. In terms of nuance, the Might deck is pretty easy to understand. Play a lot of stuff and smash in with everything as often as possible. A simple yet effective strategy. As with most duel decks, don't expect to get much financial value from the cards featured here. These decks are designed to showcase theme and flavor synergies more so than to offer value. Still, there are a few gems in the Mind deck. Namely, the before-mentioned Beacon of Tomorrows. Printed in 5th Dawn, this pricey extra turn taker has been sitting steadily at $7 to $8 US for a while now. Certainly not bank-breaking, but nice to see in the deck either way. You also get 3 copies of Riftbolt from Time Spiral, which sit at about $250 a piece as of right now. That's about $750 total for those. The prices for these and all the other cards featured in the Mind and Might deck are likely to go down after its release, but initially it's some nice added value. In terms of this in respect to the Might deck, it has less medium priced cards than Mind, but still has a few decent ones in the list. Cards such as Talara's Battalion and Zozu the Punisher certainly aren't 10-cent rares. But the real winner here is the copy of Coat of Arms, which has been a staple in some tribal and EDH decks for a while. Of course, with the number of warriors in Might, you'll get value from this card regardless of its $7 to $8 current price tag. As for new artwork, the Mind and Might deck both get 3 cards with updated art. Of course, being the face card of the Mind deck, Jorah of the Get-To gets a facelift from its original printing in Future Sight, being excluded from new art when it was again reprinted in the original Modern Masters. In her own duel deck, however, she's given proper treatment with some flashy new art. Next, we have the monstrous spirit, the Unspeakable, from Champions of Kamigawa, who we actually spoke about earlier. Some name, huh? Anyway, its old art was disturbing to say the least. Like a parasitic bat with the grin of a toothless elderly grandfather. Certainly not a face you want to use as a win condition. Luckily, with a few trips to the plastic surgeon, the Unspeakable's speaking a new tune, looking young, sleek, and like a demon from the Maw of Hell itself. We also have the Arcane Spell and Desperate Ritual getting new art, again an uncommon from Champions of Kamigawa that was reprinted in Modern Masters. The original art saw the Aki, a native race of goblins on Kamigawa, performing a ritual to summon their patron god, which, if I understand goblins correctly, probably ate them all. In the new art, we again see the Aki performing this ritual, but with the Aki itself at the forefront rather than the god. It really shows off just how lanky these little monsters are. Speaking of Aki, the legendary Zozu the Punisher gets some new art from its original printing in Champions of Kamigawa, making its first reprint appearance in the Might deck. The legendary Goblin Warrior used to look low energy and lacking any kind of fighting spirit, but that's changed in the Might deck with its new art. Looking as devilish and willing to scrap as any other goblin, Zozu certainly deserved this overdue facelift. Also getting updated in the Might deck is the instant counterspell Guttural Response from Shadowmoor. Since this is the Might deck, and this is obviously a mindish spell, they needed to buff up the imagery a little bit. No more fish spirit being cut by magic. This is Might. So now we have a gorilla straight up strapped for battle, armor, sword and all, bellowing a war cry. Yeah, I'm thinking that would probably interrupt some spells. And to wrap up the new art for Mind vs. Might, we have the face of Might, Lovisa Cold Eyes from Cold Snap. Not as well known or reprinted as her Mind counterpart, Lovisa turns less cold in her new art, looking more inspired to battle than in her older print. No longer sitting on her throne, this former human lord is ready to hit the battlefield and charge face first into combat. And that, you guys, is everything I wanted to talk about in terms of Magic's latest duel decks, Mind vs. Might. I personally find myself more of a Might player. The deck just seems a lot more fun to me, but let me know which is your favorite in the comments below. I'd also like to thank Wizards of the Coast for the article where I got most of this information from, and the author Nicholas Wolfren. You can find the full article linked in the description below. If you enjoyed this video and want to support the Aether Hub here on YouTube, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more awesome MTG content. As always guys, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time here on the Aether Hub.